The Prophet of Thought series.
Peace, folks, and welcome back to another edition of T.P.O.T. right here on the old T.P.O.T. YouTube page. I'm your host, X, and you know tonight is the day of the week that I'm always looking for, the night that I build with Unicorn 4, the ladies of thought. Y'all know what it is. Now, tonight, we are going to be talking a very, very, very touchy subject, y'all. Tonight's show, we will be talking the Caucasian equation. We're going to talk about the effect white people have on us. We'll talk about the effect that we have on white people. We'll ask the questions of whether or not we scapegoat white people for black folks' problems. And we're also going to ask the question, do we idolize white folks? Yeah, this is going to be a good one, y'all. So, you know. Oh, thanks, Lady Cats. I appreciate that. You like the sweater, huh? Yeah, I see two of the unicorns have a symbol, Lady Classic and Lady Ming. What's good, ladies?
Good evening,
how
sir.
you doing?
What's good? What's good? Y'all know I usually just run my damn mouth until y'all assemble, so I'll just continue to do that. Also, yeah, let me go ahead and do this at the top of the show. I got a couple donations today. I appreciate that, folks. I do appreciate y'all. Y'all know who y'all are because I'll always, like I always say, I always write y'all a personal email. I appreciate the donations. I do appreciate y'all. I don't want y'all to think that I don't. That's why I always get up here whenever I get donations. I say thank you very much on the air so you can see me saying it and look in my face and know that I mean it. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you subscribing to the channel. I appreciate you watching the content. I appreciate you, period. So thank you very much. And if you didn't check your email, you need to check it because, I always write you back when you hit me off with a donation. So go ahead and check your email. You'll see a little personal thank you in there from old X himself. All right. So, Cats, Lady Cats, you got a new avatar, huh? You keep changing them up on me. I'm looking down there. I'm like, who the hell is that? I'm like, who the hell is that?
Gotta keep
Brother
things
Laquan.
interesting.
Okay, Brother Laquan, what's good? Brother Lamont, what's going on? WOTP, what's good? Nisha Tats, what's good? What's going on, folks? See everybody starting to pile in. The gang is all here, except for Lady Kendra. So what's been going on, ladies? What you been doing the past week while we waiting for Lady Kendra?
Chilling, trying not to hurt people.
Oh,
That
that.
that sounds so ominous.
Trying not to hurt people. Well, I guess that's a good thing to be doing. Trying not to hurt folks.
It's just
Mhm.
worrisome. She has to try. Like that's it's. She has to try so hard it fills her week. I don't know.
It's just like any minute now.
Now, I don't want y'all to. I don't want y'all to get mad at me, but I have because y'all know that I have a power mechanics business that I run, and I have a delivery that's scheduled for tonight. It's supposed to arrive here maybe about 9:45, so I may have to run out. All right, because I
Mhm.
gotta go. I
Okay.
gotta go get the delivery. They were running late because we had like this massive snowstorm. Can you believe it? A massive snowstorm in North Carolina, and but
Yep.
I did get on the tracker, and they said it would be here somewhere between 9:45 and 10 o'clock, and I have to go get this package, y'all, because I need it. So,
What's
All
massive?
right.
2 inches, 3 inches, and a
Right.
um,
half.
act-
Right.
actually, here we got 7 inches down
Oh
here,
wow.
Okay.
Wow.
and we
Okay,
don't.
that's a lot.
Yeah, we don't
Hmm.
usually get snow down here. I mean, before I moved down here, I actually lived in Hudson Valley, upstate New York. So this ain't really no snow. I mean, they don't even measure it. They don't measure snow in inches in upstate. They measure it in feet. Okay,
Mhm.
five
Mm-hmm.
feet, 6 feet, 7 feet. You know, I was living in the mountains, so it's nothing that I haven't seen before. But down here where I am in North
Mm-hmm.
Carolina, whenever it snows, the whole town shuts down because I don't even think they have snow plows or nothing. They don't even have snow
Right.
plows down here. It's just
I actually used to go to high school out in Winston-Salem, and
mm,
they stayed having to do makeup days because nobody would go to school on the
yeah.
snow day.
Yeah, everything closed down today. I mean, and because my wife she goes to Aveda Academy for for esthetician, and they actually closed the damn school. They
What?
closed the school. They closed the school yesterday. Soon as it started snowing, they just closed it.
That
Yeah, they just
tickles
closed,
me.
and it's been closed for the last couple of days. She don't know when they're going back.
That just tickles me. I'll never forget my first year living in Boston. I moved there, it was the winter of '03, and there was so much snow. People were outside in their skis
Yeah,
and ski poles. And, I stepped outside, the snow went up to my mid thigh. That's
yeah,
how far you sunk down. Boston is no joke. That nor'easters.
yeah, yeah. Told you I was living in Hudson Valley, man, and I mean, because I moved down here in February. I moved down here in February of 2014, and before I could even load the moving truck, the first thing I had to do was dig it out because the moving truck got stuck. So I had to, I had to dig out the moving truck and all that shit because it was like 5 feet of snow that night. I don't know what made me want to move in the middle of the winter, but yeah, I had to dig the moving truck out. I see the master teacher in the house. What's good, master teacher? Lady Kendra's running a little late. So I guess we can get started. Brother Faulkner, what's good, my brother? Uh I guess we can go ahead and get started, y'all. Let's get right into it. I guess we'll wait for Lady Kendra. She might the daggone link may not be working because you know that happens here at OTPOT. For some reason our I don't know, our links be having little elves in them that keep that keep people from being able to use them. So I guess if she tries to come on and she can't, she'll just come up in the chat. And what's good, brother Maxwell? She'll just come up in the chat and let us know what's going on. So
Mhm.
let's get right on into it, shall we? Um Often when we think about white folks, right? We have a tendency, many of us, not all of us, but many of us have a tendency to hide behind the oppression of the white power structure. We hide behind white supremacy, and we hide behind Jim Crow and slavery, and you name it. You've heard some brother, sister, one of us has hidden behind it. And I'm a true believer, and I talked about this last night with Brother Cerulean. I believe that, of course, white supremacy exists. Anyone who says it doesn't is a damn fool, and they either blind, crippled, and crazy all at one time. Of course it exists, and of course it has an effect on Black folks' lives. Hold on, y'all. Lady Kendra in the chat. See there? Something's going on with the damn link. If you need me to email it to you again, Lady Kendra, just say something in the chat and I'll email it to you again. We've heard people hide behind these things. And like I said, I was telling Brother Cerulean the other night, I know that white supremacy has an effect on us as Black folks, but I do not believe that it is responsible for everything. So what I want to ask you ladies tonight, what things do you believe white supremacy is responsible for as far as Black folks go? And what things do you believe white supremacy is not responsible for as far as Black folks go?
Well, I think white supremacy is responsible for trying to make us like super dependent on them, so that like Black people may not feel the need to build anything for themselves. But I think where we fall, like where it's our fault, is that we need to realize that we should just, go ahead and do things for ourselves. Like, well, how can I say this? Like, I don't know. I just think we could show more initiative, and stop being super dependent, even though they've conditioned us to. I mean, we could still take more initiative.
I agree with Katz. I think white supremacy is responsible for the cards we've been dealt, but not necessarily how we choose to play those cards. I liken it to saying playing Blackjack 21. The dealer is responsible for the cards I got, but it's up to me to hit or split or pass, I can't blame him for the choices I choose to make with the information I have in front of me. So that's kind of how I feel about it. Of course, they're responsible for this whole foundation. They're responsible for all of these things that we're trying to overcome daily. However, it's ultimately up to you as an individual to do with it what you will. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I think that, there's a concept and it's called learned helplessness syndrome. And, you see it, they've practiced it and whatever, and you can see it in real life. Whereas if you put a dog, let's say, in a cage, and you lock that door and you electrify the cage and you shock the dog, it will do everything in its power to try to get out. Eventually it learns it can't get out of the cage and it stops fighting against the shocks. And then and here's the most magical part, is even when you open the door for the dog and then you shock it, it doesn't try to get out of the cage because it sees the open door, but it's learned to be helpless against the pain. So I think that, when I think about the Black community, that's what I think of. I think about this community that, time and time again, you put them in this cage, you've locked them in, you've electrified them. Now you open a door for them and you say, here, this is the way out. And they're content to sit inside the cage and be shocked. So, I think that kind of answers both aspects of it.
Well, do you ladies believe that we that we use that as an excuse? I mean, do we overuse the white supremacy, the white man? Do we overuse that as an excuse as a people?
I think generally speaking, yes. Individually, I think that it depends. It's on an individual basis on how people choose to internalize that message that we've been given since we've been here and what they choose to do with it. It's like I liken it to two kids raised by the same drug addict parent. Both of them can be girls. I have some people I grew up with. Both of them were raised by the same drug addict prostitute mother. One is a drug addict prostitute, the other is not. You know, so it's the same circumstance, the same situation, same injustices done. But what do you choose to do with that information that's been filtered through? So I do think that people choose to use white supremacy almost as a get out of jail free card. I don't have to take any responsibility for any of this because it's not my fault, instead of taking responsibility and ownership for the individual decisions you've made and going from there. Now, granted, there will be some things that are legitimately just not your fault. But even still, you're in control of how you choose to respond to that stimuli, period. That's how I feel
Yeah,
about it.
I agree.
I agree
Yeah.
with Ming. I think some of the decisions we make um could be due to survival, but like a lot of the times we also just use certain things as an excuse to do what we want to do.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes we not only do we overuse it, but we misuse it. So we will, for example, show up to a job interview half an hour late, disheveled looking, still kind of hungover from the night before. And then when we don't get the job, we say, well, white supremacy. Well, they're holding us back. Well, I didn't get hired because I was black. Well, you know, that can't always be the case. I mean, certainly will it sometimes be the case, but a lot of times what we're looking at in this day and age is, systemic racism and systemic oppression from, so many levels up and above you just walking in for that job interview. And I think sometimes it's a little bit beyond a lot of the people in our community for, the reasons that Ming said. At the end of the day, we don't want to accept responsibility because we know that doing that in an oppressive society means we do have to work twice as hard to get half as far. And it seems unfair and it seems exhausting and it seems relentless. So we give up and we give in and then we blame oppression instead of taking the onus, which was, I have to work twice as hard to get half as far. And fine, that's what I'm going to have to do. So that's what I'm going to do. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm. We've been joined by Lady Kendra. What's good, Lady Kendra?
Man, my laptop took me all over the world to get on Hangouts because Firefox doesn't support it anymore. Internet Explorer likes to crash. Edge, I don't know what's going on with Edge. So I had to download Chrome. I hate Chrome, but
Mm,
it's the only browser that'll get on Hangouts now. So sorry I'm late, but how is everyone?
good,
Good
good,
golly.
Good,
Glad you
sis.
made it.
good. So did you hear the question, Lady Kendra?
Um, are we on the question saying do we overuse or misuse the quote unquote excuse of white supremacy to
Yes.
kind of excuse
Yes.
our failing? Sometimes some of us do. Um, you know, sometimes growing up, being a teenager and all that kind of stuff, you're constantly in and out of trouble, in and out of juvie, in and out of, jail. It's not all the system. You do have to take personal accountability um, for what we do. But I also think that when we discuss white supremacy or when someone legitimately brings it up, it's often the thought that we're bringing it up in lieu of personal accountability. Those things are not mutually exclusive to me. You can be personally accountable and understand that you're being faced with a systemic issue. So me personally, I've taken personal accountability for things that I do or don't do, but then I still also see where, as a collective, we're being held back. It's almost like playing the same game that they are. We're all playing God of War, but they're playing it on easy on the best possible console, and we're playing it on Titan on an inferior console with no tutorial, and our controller is broken also. How are we getting through this game? And that was a reference for all gamers. Y'all should know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
But I don't think that we necessarily just use it as an excuse to excuse our behavior all the time. Sometimes, yeah, but as a collective, no.
Well, let me ask you ladies this. Who do you think is more affected by white supremacy? Black men or black women?
Hmm. I think,
Black men.
yeah,
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, Kat.
yeah. I was gonna say black men get it worse from white supremacy than black women. We get affected by it too, but we kind of get more stuff out of it, I guess. Like what we used to. I don't know how long this stuff is gonna last with Donald Trump, but yeah.
It's weird because on the one hand, I want to say the men are definitely affected by white supremacy more so than women are. But then on the other hand, I want to say that women are too equally, or if not equally, definitely differently. Because we also get hit with the bitch moniker on top of that. Have being a black woman, you're automatically assumed to be aggressive and opinionated and hard-headed and all those other things. Where I think that sometimes the white culture looks at black men as if they'll acquiesce quicker than a black woman. um just my outside looking in, just observations that I've made when I stand back and I look and I see how some black men can move through the corporate ladder quicker than a black woman can. And I'm sure, now mind you, you're a double minority, being a woman and then being black also, but it just appears as if I put it in, just if I frame it in just that bubble, just the corporate bubble, just the workforce bubble, black men tend to have an easier go at it than black women on top of that too, because it's like, especially the type of woman that I am, who is very direct and straightforward and can even be considered an alpha female. I have to fight against being black, and then I also have to fight against being a alpha black. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense. I'm trying, if y'all understand what I'm kind of saying a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I almost feel like
Yeah.
black men have had a leg up on learning the game, if you will, than black women have.
Um, I might have to come back to your point in a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, mean, because I sort of disagree.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer the question, I think both. We're equally being hit, and here's how. Black men are being attacked more outwardly, more directly. Um, the prison rate is one clue. Um, his propensity to uh, be shot or injured during an encounter with police is higher than a black woman's would be. Um, but we, as black women, as a collective, are being used as the double agent to help destroy the community by being paid for bad behavior. Now, it doesn't seem like black women are suffering from the effects of white supremacy because she's quote unquote benefiting from it. But then I challenge one to define benefit, because just because she's getting Section 8 She's getting all of these welfare, food stamps, et cetera, et cetera. That is not benefiting. Short term, yeah, she can avoid market rent and she can go to the store and get food without paying taxes on it. But that is an extremely short-sighted benefit that in the long term does not benefit any of us at all. It actually helps hold us back and it helps perpetuate the issue. So Black women are being attacked in a more covert, subversive way because that's the way to keep a community down, to subvert the female and then outright attack the male. So the attack on Black men is not covert. It's overt, especially if he's heterosexual. So because he can potentially
Mm-hmm.
build a family unit. And this is what they want to avoid because building a successful family unit actually counters the effects of white supremacy in such a grand fashion as to disarm it. So this is the
Mm-hmm.
whole point, to keep that actually from happening. And how do you do that? You attack the man. You keep him. If you keep the Black men in our communities with at least one felony in his life, whether he did it or not, whether it was a crime that should have been a misdemeanor that was upgraded to a felony just to get him the felony, you've already disadvantaged him because who wants to hire the ex-con? Even if it was a non-violent type of thing, and then they get mad if he lies on the application. Well, if I tell the truth, you're not going to hire me. You know what I'm saying? So that it prevents him. And then on the woman's side, you keep subverting her in a way that makes him almost obsolete to her. So he's financially obsolete to her. If I can go to White Zaddy and get my rent paid, my lights paid, my food paid, my kids take babysat and all this kind of stuff, what do I quote unquote need a man for? So I say we equally suffer.
Okay. Well, I think that we equally are suffering for maybe slightly different reasons. So the way that I see it is this: that being Black in and of itself is the major disadvantage. On the women's side, regardless of the foolishness that feminazis are saying and how they're trying to push things, there is still a disadvantage to being female, and that's going to be magnified about 10 trillion times because you're a Black female. On top of that, if you aren't falling into the ratchet categories and the Section 8 category, so you're trying to I go to school or get a job in somewhere in the corporate world, you are being stereotyped by the rest of your community that has fallen prey to Section 8 and all of that stuff as well. And you know what? Like many, you are getting caught up and in this sort of net that is kind of, it's almost like a ceiling, only they let one out of a million of us through. So that way it looks like there's not really a ceiling. The rest of us just aren't trying that hard. The rest of us just aren't applying ourselves as much. And so because you have a lot of restrictions on so many different levels, not the least of which is everything Kendra was covering, you have the women who are literally lost at sea. They're not really sure what to do, and they do need men in our community. We need men in our community for guidance. We need men in our households for guidance. And for those of us, again, who are at the Section 8 level and all of that, and we're just looking for a husband, looking for a nice life, looking for, maybe a nice 2-income household and whatever. It's really hard to find a man who isn't jaded, who also hasn't been traumatized by the Section 8 ratchets of the world. So, that's sort of how I see. And again, all of that is being created by white oppression to begin with. So everything I'm mentioning is being created by white oppression. So this is how our women as a global whole are being impacted. And then you have our men who don't have the disadvantage of being female, lucky them, but at the same time, because they're men and they're more men than white men will ever be, they are they are such a threat that we can't even describe it to the white male who's supposed to be the head of the nation, and they're not, and they know they're not. And so as a result, they can't let black men rise too fast too quickly, because they know they'll dominate, they know they'll take over. What do? You start early, school to prison pipeline. So if they even make it to the point where they're still trying in high school, well, we're going to make sure we funnel them right to jail. When they, again, the littlest mistake that they make, we're going to sit there and we're going to blow it up. And now suddenly he's going to be a predator. Now suddenly he's going to be a thief because, money went missing, even though it was really your nephew, cousin, whoever, and it is. Well, it's the black man, because the black man is always the easiest fall guy. So at the end of the day, when you look at the system, not just, what's actually happening, also perceptions that are being colored by the media. What does the media tell us? Does the media tell us anything positive about Black people on any level, either to our own community or to other communities around us? No. Does the media that's coming through to our neighborhoods, is it telling us about weave, or is it telling us about schools, or is it telling us about starting businesses? Is it telling us about trade schools? What are they telling us? They're telling us some foolishness about Jordans and weaves and this and that and whatever, because they can control what commercials are coming towards us. So, all in all, there's a system. This is where I say it's the systemic oppression that's the problem. There's a system that's coming from so far above the corner store person calling you a nigger, that is holding us all back, no matter how hard you're trying. And that's why I said at the beginning, you have to try twice as hard to get half as far. And it's relentless. You have to consistently be okay with that, just to keep your head above water. And so as a result, looking at both ends, and I'm sure there's so many things I haven't even brought up or touched on, I'm going to say it's affecting each of us equally, just in different ways.
Well, let me say this. If white society or white supremacy or the white power structure, whatever you want to call it, if it's bad now, it had to be twice as bad 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. And back in those days, say 50, 60, even 70 years ago, Black people actually did better, right? They did better. If you go back 70, 80 years and you look what Black people were doing, Black people were married at a high rate, I think to the tune of like 80%. Black people had their own businesses. Black people had their own neighborhoods. Black people had their own structures. Black people had all that stuff. Now, fast forward back to 2018, and Black people don't have that type of thing. I mean, of course, you got Black people who, own businesses and stuff like that. But I mean, the marriage rate is like 30%. The illegitimacy rate is like 70%. So Black people actually did better back then, under way more oppression. Now, do you ladies believe that Black people would have been better off if we hadn't been integrated or assimilated into white society?
Oh my God, yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you asked that question. Me and my husband, we go
So
back and forth about this all the time. And I'm of the mindset that I would have preferred us to be separate but equal, that I would have preferred us to continue the path that we were on, that we didn't have to be segregated. We could have stayed at our schools, stayed with our money, stayed in our neighborhoods. Oh my God, yes. We would have been so much better off because we were on code back then. That's the new terminology for it. Right now, nobody's on code. It's been too much infiltration. It's just too much. It's
And
too
not
not
much,
only
only that,
has
I
it
don't
been
think
Go
we
ahead.
have code anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Say what, Lady Katz?
I said not only that, I don't think we have a code anymore. And
No,
see
we don't.
how
no.
you reinforce everything from a code to education to politics, everything goes back to finances. So if we, integration was all about, basically getting that black dollar.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
another thing about that as well, you know, you brought up, Brother Xavier, how much better off we were as a collective group, even at a time where the oppression was seen to be the heaviest. Well, that was because it was overt. You couldn't afford to be blind to who your enemy was. You just couldn't afford to, because they weren't going to allow you to not know who your enemy was, where they were, and how they felt about you. So we understood intrinsically where it was coming from, who was holding us back, how they felt about us. And so that galvanized us. That knowledge galvanized us because we were uncomfortable around them with good reason. Now, fast forward to 2018, we can't come together as a people to identify the enemy. We're so politically correct. We got some people scared to say that it's racism and white supremacy is still in this country. And why wouldn't it be? It was built when they were creating the Declaration of Independence, when they were creating the Constitution. You weren't at the table. They weren't talking about you. When they were talking about the unalienable rights and the pursuit of happiness, they weren't talking about you. You were 3/5 of a human being. When they put it in paper what they thought about you, they put it in black and white. So they made sure that you would know, and that their descendants would know, that doesn't apply to the animals that we have enslaved, because they are not human. And so we're not talking about them. So when they built the institution of education, when they built the economy, when they built the things that hold up a civilization, you were not included. That has not changed. Now they can come through and make some amendments here and there, but if you watch the documentary, The 13th Amendment, you'll understand that, as things change, they stay the same. So, now we're just comfortable in our enslavement. We don't know that we're enslaved. We don't know that we're being held back. We think we're on equal footing, and we're not.
It's funny you say that, Kendra, before we move on, because it didn't click with me until you just said that. I have a friend, we lived in Boston. She was from Louisiana, and I think she went to Xavier. And she hated Boston. She was dark, real dark skinned, and she hated it. She said, "What I hate about it is that up here, all the racism is covert. Nobody is underhanded, is behind your back. But down south, you know what areas to go in. People driving around with their Confederate flags. You know what it is, and this is so uncomfortable." She hated it. And it didn't quite make sense to me, because being raised in the North, I'm like, oh, screw that shit. I'm not going to be riding around with people openly being able to say fuck niggers. Like, hell no, I'll be dead. But it's like, it's not until what you just said did it really click in my head, kind of what she was probably trying to convey. That being down south and you knowing what it is and what it's about, it gives you, actually, you're more empowered than you walking around here and somebody's giving you the side eye or treating you funny, slick and underhanded, and it's nothing, you have no recourses or nothing to do. It didn't really click until now. That was 15, 12 years ago.
Well, let me just, before I start my opinion, I just wanted to add to that, because I can't remember what I was watching. I think it might be on the Advice show, and he just posted it like yesterday. I think it was the Advice show. Anyway, there was this girl, so she's from Jersey, and she went to, I guess, first year university in Alabama or somewhere down south. I think it might be Alabama. And so anyway, she's basically gotten kicked out of her sorority now, and also now banned from her school, because she said something like nigger on her Instagram live stream, and then people were like, you shouldn't say it. She's like, what do you mean? I'm from Jersey, I'm down south now, I don't have to hide it. Nigger, 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 nigger. Right?
Yeah,
So it just right, so when you said that, that's exactly what popped in my mind. Like, she was waiting. This is what I commented on thing. I'm like, she was waiting her whole life. She used to dream of the day she could go somewhere and openly say the word nigger, and no one would flinch or be like, well, you shouldn't say that. Like, just where it's okay, right? You could just openly voice the fact that, you know, we're all niggers and we're less than people to you, and that's cool with you, right? Like, but now with that being said, I think that, and you know, my experience obviously isn't in America. My experience is in Canada. So my therefore my opinion is going to be slightly different, and I know that I'm not taking certain things into account. But I think that the problem was that the Black community in America was not ready for integration, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So when Okay, so for example, most of the Black people that are in Canada are immigrants. We're immigrants from the islands or from Africa. And when you come to Canada, you come and you are automatically integrated with white people. There isn't a Black community to go to. There isn't a Black school to go to. Like, you are just going wherever the white people are because that's all they're worth. Um, and even the neighborhoods and whatever. But the thing is we had a culture, we had a touchstone, we had something that we actually held above Canada. Canada is a place where there's opportunities. Canada was a place where there was better this and better that and whatever. But it didn't actually mean that we looked down on home. And for us, home, back home, that's what we call Jamaica still. You know, even those of us who were born in, we're first generation, second generation Canadian, we still call Jamaica home. Oh, I'm going back home, going back to my yard. That's never Canada, right? So we had an affiliation with somewhere or something that wasn't here. And so as a result, us being integrated with white people, we never forget that we're Black first, we're Jamaican first, we're Canadian second. Our kids are going to be born and raised Black first, right? You're going to learn about Canada and the customs and the language and whatever, and come here for these opportunities, do this for these opportunities, and we're going to fight to make sure our kids have these opportunities, kind of thing. But you never lose touch of what your touchstone is. Now with Black America, it's different because y'all don't have somewhere else. You know, your somewhere else is, you know, 400 years of slavery in America. So the community in and of itself, I do not think was in a place that it had a culture and an identity and was on solid footing pre-integration. So as a result, how in the world would you be able to keep any unity and keep anything that was actually solid when you were just barely building up to a solid level again? So, you know, you were relying on each other and relying on the community because you had no choice, not because there was an inherent built-in unity and pride and, like, you know, they're not better than us. There were still so many issues that were still laying over from slavery and, you know, the Miss Anne complex and all those things. So I think integration was such a bad thing to do when it happened. I don't know where the community would be now, if it would be a good time for integration or not. I just don't think that the Black community was ready for something like integration, and I think that it shattered any ability that we had to be able to continue building to something stronger.
I agree. I think that integration caused Black people to lose whatever was inside of us after, you know, living through slavery and Jim Crow and all the racism. We didn't have a choice but to be strong. That's the only way we were going to survive. We had to be strong because no one was giving Black people anything. So Black people had to build on their own. We had to stay together. We had to have a sense of community and family, and we had to live by the whole village. It takes a village to raise a child thing. I mean, we had to live like it was said earlier. We had to be on code back then, like Lady Ming said earlier. We had to stay on code. Now, when integration came in, where they kind of well, you hear people say that Black people, integration was Black people being assimilated to white society, but we were only assimilated to the point where white people could have us amongst them but still not be treated equivalent to them. All right, that's what I think. We were amongst them, but you can be here, but don't ever think that you're getting what we're getting. Don't ever think you're going to be able to do what we're doing. Don't ever think that you can have what we have. So in a sense, it wasn't really assimilation. I think it was more subjugation, if you ask me. It's more assimilated subjugation is what I call it. But that's just me. But now when you think about it, right? If a lot of the people, and I've thought about this a lot, when you talk about integration, segregation, and how Black people were 60, 70, 80 years ago compared to how they are now. What would Black people be like now if, by some stretch of the imagination, somebody from any government, whether it be federal, local, state, county, whatever, said, okay, fine, here. This is what we're going to do. We're going to give you Black people this town. We're going to give you this county. We're going to give you this village. And y'all just stay in there and it'll be y'all's. It'll be Blackville. We spoke about Blackville weeks ago. We're giving y'all Blackville, right? We're giving y'all Blackville. Y'all can have it. Do you ladies believe that the way we are now, because we've become so dependent on white folks? I say that a lot because we are just dependent on white people. We just are. We're so dependent on white folks. Do you think we could even have a Blackville now?
I think we could, but it'll have to have a Darwin type of feel to it, survival of the fittest, and survival will be contingent upon what we've decided that looks like, because otherwise we'll implode. It's too many other influences. We would have to eradicate it immediately, and go from there in order for it to actually work and survive. It's just the truth of the matter. It's always somebody looking to infiltrate, or somebody looking to bring in other influences, outside influences, and what you're trying to create. So we would have to kind of eradicate that, nip it in the bud early, and apply a Darwin mindset to it, where only the strongest will survive. And after we've deemed what strong means for us as Blackville,
It would
but I
have
think
to
that's the only
depend
way.
on. To me, it would have to depend on at what point in time we would be given Blackville. Like if we were given it right now, I don't think we would survive, because you already have Black people right now saying, well, I wouldn't want to go to a school with only Black kids, or I wouldn't want my child going to school with only all Black people and all that, like as if, being amongst your own people is just the worst thing in the world. So, you'd have like a lot of people trying to escape it, right? But if you like maybe did it, I don't know, 50, 60 years ago, it probably would have a better chance of surviving, because then the people would have a better sense of self, and they
Yeah.
stick together
That's kind
more.
of what I mean. That's kind of what I mean, though, Cats, when I say we would have to kind of eradicate some of those influences from the beginning, because the truth of the matter is that we only feel that way about the school system because of all the resources and all those other things. But that doesn't mean that you don't have Black folks in predominantly Black schools who aren't, doing extremely well. And so those people who are doing extremely well and other aspects of life have to build the framework of this new society that you have to kind of, roll with, or you have to roll out. That would be probably the only way to do it, because anybody that's sitting on the fence or straddling it, they would just sit up there and make the whole thing just implode pretty much. So that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, put it here, but take the 50-40 mindset to run it.
Mm-hmm. I
Like,
understand
this is
what you're
what
saying.
this is what I see. So, I mean, to the extent under which we were discussing, Black Village, Nigger Island, and all that, no. But now this is something. So I see the Asians, and when I say Asian, I mean East Asian and South Asian, doesn't matter. They actually do something very similar to creating their own little villas here. And so this is what they do. So a new development will pop up somewhere that has no houses, basically. So, for example, the house that I live in now, when my mom purchased it, she purchased it before they broke ground. There was nothing here. It was a field it was just a field. Now you can drive 10 minutes down the road into my neighborhood, and there's still more houses. There's several schools now in these neighborhoods, et cetera, et cetera. They opened a GO train line. Like, I mean, this is a booming neighborhood. Now, what the Asians do when they catch wind of these things, and there's a bunch of them. So let's say there's going to be about 100 of them in total that want to buy a house. They have the down payments ready. They've got their credit ready. They're ready to go. What happens is they wait for a new development to open, and then they go and they buy the block of it. They just buy all of it. And because they have their collective of like 100, 200, 300 families in total that over the next 5 to 10 years are going to be ready to buy a house, and they sit on it and they wait, and then they go and they buy out the entire development. And then right there, they have their own little ville, because it's going to be literally only them, because there's not an opportunity for anyone else to live there. Now, what happens is they also have real estate brokers inside of their communities. They have everything that you would basically need towards purchasing a house, towards everything. So therefore, if one of them ever does need or want to move, it's not going to be sold to someone from the outside community. And in fact, if anything, a lot of white people wouldn't want to live in an all Indian or all Chinese or all whatever place anyway. So they're not interested. Now, the problem is that the Asian communities are happy with that. They're happy that the white people look down on their little communities. We are not happy with that. So we are almost insulted when white people don't want to live with us, when they don't want to be part of our things. Why don't they want to be here? And I'm saying this here in Canada. This isn't even about from a financial or whatever. It's like literally like that mentality that you think that the best neighborhood is white, instead of looking at it from the other way and saying, well, we can make the best neighborhood of us. So I think that it's totally actually feasible to create your own little town, and we could do it over the next 5 to 10 years, the next time a development opens, and then they just keep making the developments bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And as long as we keep purchasing, we keep investing, we make our communities valuable and worthwhile, they'll keep building on them. We just don't band together like that. We don't start these little mini collectives, and we don't have the mentality that tells us, again, that white isn't better, that, somehow things won't get done if there's not at least one white person on it, that no one's going to care anyway if white people aren't part of it. But the thing is, we need to stop expecting white people to care, and we need to care. Hello?
I'm here. Maybe his package came.
Oh, his package came. Okay. Right. Okay. Wait, did Kendra go already?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. Maybe she's having browser issues, though. We all know she doesn't like Chrome. Probably doesn't agree with her. I know how that feels. My whole laptop doesn't agree with me lately. So
Chrome, look, Hangouts only works on Chrome on my computer too.
I only own Chrome. I don't know. But yeah, no.
Mm-hmm.
Like we in theory, I mean, and this is part of the problem is, we're on here, like in Black YouTube, we're on Discord, we're in all these places. How many of us have even 10 people in our near vicinity that we can get together and talk to like this, that are on the same wavelength?
I don't think a lot of us have 10 people. Otherwise we wouldn't be on the internet talking.
Yeah.
I mean, I do. I do. I mean, I do have a lot of people who are on the same wavelength, but the internet makes it so much easier because
Mhm.
real life takes effect. You know what I mean? And if you're from a big city like myself, like I'm going to a party Saturday, but it's all the way in Plainfield. That's like 45 minutes from my house. I could legit feel like I'm driving out of town just to get to the southwest suburbs of Chicago, and I'm in the northwest suburbs. Like it could be an
Yeah.
hour and a half, 2 hours. So sometimes it's really hard to convene with like-minded individuals, and that's when the internet comes in and becomes a great safe space.
Right.
Hmm.
So
I
like
think
the
I
That
think
was
credit
kind
of
of that.
All right, I'm back, ladies. I had to run out and get my box.
we
Sorry.
we figured you went for the package. It's all right.
I had to run out and get my box. I heard the doorbell.
It's all right.
Um,
Don't worry. We had to take a second, but we got some extra information in there. We're good.
okay. We lost Lady Kendra, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll go to the next round of questioning once she get back from what she's doing, what she's doing.
I think she's
Um,
having some browser issues because she
yeah, yeah,
didn't stop responding. Yeah.
yeah. She said that. Well, let me ask you, ladies, this. Um, we as black folks, right? I spoke earlier about how we have a tendency to overuse the whole, white supremacy, white, power structure, and the white man, this and that. But there are some amongst us who don't use that excuse. In fact, there's those amongst us who actually embrace white people's ideology. They embrace a lot of them embrace white folks culture. And I truly believe that a lot of us actually see ourselves through white people's eyes. Case in point, I've spoke about this before. Now, I'm a power mechanic, right? So I'm always in places like Harbor Freight, Home Depot, in the hardware store, Lowe's. I mean, that's you go in there, you'll probably see your ex walking around in there buying something. And where I live at, a lot of young black women work in these stores. I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again. You walk inside these stores, right? And I pay attention to this stuff, because this is the stuff I talk about on my platform. And I walk in there, whether I'm buying a drill or sawzall or jackhammer, whatever I'm buying that day. And I watch how these women deal with the men who stand in front of me, these white men. And it's, hello, sir. How are you, sir? Having a good day, sir. How's it going, sir? Thank you, sir. Have a good evening, sir. But as soon as I get to that damn counter, it's as if I have taken a little vial of battery acid and thrown it. Because the first thing that happens is they rear back, like a cobra. Can I help you? I'm like, wait a minute. I just sat here and watched you kiss this white man's ass. All right. I just watched you do that, girl. But I walk up here and I look like you, but you treat me like I just crawled out of the back of a sewer tank and I'm just standing before you here. And all I want to do is pay for my shit. I mean, that's all I want to do. I just want to pay for my shit and leave. So let me put this before you ladies. Why do you think that some of us treat white folks better than we treat our own people? Anyone who want to go first can go.
Because we're entrenched in the culture. Like everything you see on TV. Well, maybe not as much now, but like when I was growing up, everybody on TV was white, or if it was like a cartoon character, but they were an animal, they might have had a white person playing them, or you had white teachers, or everything was just white, right? Yeah, like all the biggest pop stars were white. So you kind of just, yeah, you start looking at your own people through the lens of a white person, and you're not really black, you're a Negropean.
Negropean.
I mean, I think we just walking around here on autopilot a little bit. Like, to Kat's point, it's like you sit in front of the television and all of these things are steady, force fed to you. I mean, you guys, if you really don't already feel this way, you have to be very, very careful what you allow in your spirit, especially through the radio and television. Because, unbeknownst to you, it's like sending signals or embedding things in your brain that you don't even realize, and you're trying to figure out, why did I act that way? It's because they've told you, the white people gave you these things and told you this is what you're supposed to feel and how you're supposed to revere us, and you do it almost on autopilot. It's not until you become fully awakened do you start to look at things a little differently, Otherwise, it's almost like you have this submissive attitude. I mean, even going so far back as if you look at your family and some of the things that they did for self-preservation in order to survive, they passed those things down to the children. Is if you guys watch Blackish, they just did an episode about the talk, and I'm throwing up air quotes, where you have that talk with your black kid about how the world is uncompromising and unfair, and how you'll be treated and what you need to do in order to survive. It's like that talk is constantly passed down, and it almost paralyzes you when you get in front of other ethnicities outside of your own, especially if you're one of those people who grew up or live in areas where the only time you interact with people outside of your own is in passing, like through exchange of, commerce or something like that. It's not really no deep conversations or anything like that for you to really learn more than what you've already been taught. So I think you kind of go on autopilot a little bit. I never personally do. I think before I did, but when I became awake, it's kind of hard to now. I'm the type of individual who, if you put my money on the counter, I, in that moment, say to you, I passed you my money in your hand, and I would like to receive it in the same manner, and make them pick the shit up and put it back in my hand. I've done it several times. And I'm not embarrassed to do so, because you got to teach people how to treat you. And I've even told one white girl, if I was not a nicer black person, you would probably get your ass beat. Because that's how it. I did. If I did at the gas station, I'll never forget this. And I did, because of her attitude about it. She picked my shit up and gave it back to me in my hand, but I just gave her a word to the wise. The grown black person you run across might end up smacking the dog shit out of you. And that's just the truth. But I think that until you become awake, and not only do you have to become awake, you have to also you have to be able to stand on your own, not needing, white zaddy if you're a woman, or not even needing handouts from the white man if you're a black man, but being able to stand on your own and realize exactly who you are and understand the power you actually possess, and realize that a lot of times the way people are dealing with you is out of their own inferiority complexes, not necessarily that they view you as inferior, because I truly believe that a lot of the times these white folks, they deal with us and they treat us based off of their own inadequacies, not the inadequacies that they see in us. I mean, just think about it. As human beings, we walk around and we think everybody can read everything that's going on with us, when in actuality they really can't. So I think that when you start to understand just exactly how powerful you are, you will tend to stand up straight or throw your shoulders back and your head high. But it's not until you understand just exactly how powerful you are. And sometimes that's a transition. I myself didn't realize it until I took my hair and did the big chop into a fade, and almost felt like I was having a nervous breakdown, because society had tied me so closely to my job that when I got laid off, I didn't know who I was. So it wasn't until I did that, and now I have locks almost down, to the small of my back, and I realized that when I meet people, even though I'm light skinned, it's almost like, okay, checking that column, but oh shit, she got locks, so she's the nonconformist, we got to put an X right there. It doesn't buy me no passes, being light skinned, or when I deal with them, because again, like I said, I truly believe this, that as a woman, they fear us a little bit more because even though we've forgotten, and I'm talking generally, the power that we have, they will never forget.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they broke our families up and they sent our men elsewhere, we still held it down and didn't break. They'll never forget. That's in our DNA. They know that. They are more hip to bloodlines and things like that we are too dumb to think about, because we've been told that we shouldn't be, go over there and look and research and learn those aspects about the world and life. But the reality of it is they understand that. So who gives a shit about what we understand? They understand it. And as soon as you understand it, then you'll be able to stand there with your back a little straight and be able to look them dead in the eye and, not waver about the way you'll be treated. And I'm not talking about be an asshole. It's about being respectful. But it's, again, I believe you have to teach people how to treat you. Everybody you meet put a little something into you and you put something back into them. But now when you're awake, you're in control about what you're putting in and what you're allowing to be put into you. And that's the problem. We're in a society of eyes wide shut. Everybody around this motherfucker is asleep. It almost makes it feel like the 144,000 is not really that small of a number, because most of this world is fucking nuts.
Can't disagree with you there, lady.
I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent.
It's all right. That's what this platform is for.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that. Oh my God! Wait, hold on. What was I gonna say? Like, I was so busy listening to Bang, I forgot. Like, what was the question?
Well, I was talking about how come a lot of us we treat
right.
white people
Okay, we're good.
we treat each other.
Yeah, got it. Okay, I remember what I was gonna say now. So again, because I don't live in America, I can only speak about my experiences here, and it's exactly the same. So, West Indians, therefore, and Africans or whatever, the way that we treat Black customers coming into our stores, the way we treat Black customers who we are giving services to, is a million times worse than it is to every race, especially white people. You can literally see the difference in, like, they might have magic in their eyes and a glowing smile, and the second they see you, and I mean, I don't know if Americans do this as much, but, like, Jamaicans, we kiss our teeth a lot if we don't like you or if we don't like what you're saying or whatever, which is not something you should be doing at work, which they will regularly do to us. So it's something that really, really upsets my husband, because I used to think it was a female thing. Females, they see me, they hate me because of something, and so that's why they act like that. But they do it to my husband as well. So it's not that. It's not the light skin factor. My husband's dark skinned. So it is just a Black on Black kind of hate thing. And what I think it has to do with a mentality where you think, first of all, you do think that white people are better than you. So it is an inferiority complex. But oftentimes when we have inferiority complexes, we don't internalize them, we externalize them. And so as a result, we hate everything that resembles us in the mirror. This is actually entirely backwards to what our biological and psychological programming should be. So that tells you just how messed up, again, this system of white oppression has us, because we should, if anything, we should trust and treat better people who look like us, and we should have more derision for people who don't. So in that way, white racist people actually make more sense than we do. So there's that factor, though. It's that internalized self-hate. We hate each other. We hate ourselves so much for not being white, because all of our programming tells us that everything white is better than us. So, and we put that onto others. So there's that factor. There's a secondary factor, though, whereas first of all, we fear white people, and for good reason, because as Ming was saying, like, if every Black person did what Ming does, which is when they just throw your money on the table, you say, no, I gave it to you in your hand it to me. They would never do that ever again. The fact that, they'll continually do that, I noticed, especially, again, the Asian community does it to me all the time. And I have to be like, I'll stare at the money. I won't even say anything. I'll just stare at it because they know better. And finally, they do it like somehow I'm asking them something ignorant. Like, no, you're not going to throw money on the table. I'm supposed to scoop it up and be thankful you gave me my change. Bitch, no. Right? But, it's a thing where we actually don't demand to be treated properly. We don't sit there with your nasty ass attitude and be like, where's your manager? I'd like to speak to your manager, because that's what the all-powerful white woman does. That's what we call them here. The all-powerful white woman. She don't like your attitude. She don't like the twitch in your eye. It doesn't matter. She's asking you to speak to your manager. And then if she doesn't get a satisfactory answer from your manager, she's going above your head. She's going to call head office. She's going to go to the Better Business Bureau, whatever, all because she didn't like your attitude today. So we have a natural thing where we have no choice but to show adoration and respect on the job towards white people, because they demand it. And you know what we do when we see other Black folk, even though we despise the way they're treating us, we don't report it. We don't do anything about it. We just sit there and take it and come out and be like, man, they're such bitches. Why they always have to da-da-da-da? Why they Well, we don't do anything about it. So we're not demanding for other Black people to treat us better and to treat us fairly and to treat us with the same respect that they treat everyone else. But we will do it to the Asian lady. We will say, no, put my money in my hand, to the Asian lady. We will say, excuse me, is there a problem with me because you are talking to me like I'm a child and I'm not a child? We'll do that, but we won't do it to each other. So I think there's a bunch of different factors that are all coming into play from their side and also from our side. And both factors need to change. So, I can't make her change internally and stop hating herself. But what I can do and what we all can do is turn around and say, okay, this isn't acceptable. You're gainfully employed for customer service purposes. That means as a customer, I'm always right. And that means as a customer, you always treat me properly. And I don't give a shit what my skin color is. I deserve to be treated properly no matter what store I go to in this country, because I am a legal citizen of this country. And just like everyone else, I have that same right to proper customer service.
I'll tell you what, like one quick story or anecdote. I used to work like in the east in New Orleans at a grocery store, and just watching both the customers and my coworkers be just completely abusive towards each other. I didn't know who to feel worse for. It was awful.
Wow.
Okay, so was the question why do we treat white people better?
Yep.
That's the easy one. We treat white people better because white people are God.
Exactly.
And Black people worship white people. They worship them. His money is longer. His love is stronger. He pure. His white woman is better. His ice is colder. Okay, his community is better. His business is more successful. Black is evil.
But his dick
white
not
is
bigger.
good.
Oops, I'm
God
sorry.
is good, and God is white. And that's why a bunch of Black people treat white people better. They get their act together. They try to speak more properly if they can. They try to look more presentable if they can. Because he's God. Literally. When they were teaching you Christianity, and I'm not here to shit on Christians or Christianity, but when they were teaching you Christianity, that was not a mistake. That Jesus was blue-eyed and blonde-haired. If you go back to the Bible and where he was, that's nearly impossible for him to look like that. But as long as we have a large contingency of Black people who are Christians who have a white Jesus on a cross anywhere in that building, and when they think of God, they think of a white man, then you worship white people. So when your God step on the scene, wouldn't you act better if your God came down and stepped on the scene and told you something? Because we don't even believe information until white people confirm it. If Black people come and tell us something, we get out of side eye until a white man say it's okay. Then it's knowledge. Then it's confirmation. You know what I'm saying? Then we can go forward on in the knowledge that it's correct because a white man said so. His media says that he's better. We've been just as brainwashed or more about ourselves and about him as anybody else. Okay, so when we look at movies and all of these romantic comedies, they are white people. They
Mm-hmm.
love conquer
Mhm.
all. Okay, they can overcome anything. I call it, when I watch movies like that, I call it discovering their inner white man.
Oh
Um,
Jesus.
I give you an example about discovering your inner white man. Now I like Doctor Strange movie. Now here he was, he searched all over the world and he got to the ancient one. Now here you had a black man, Mordo, had been there for years learning that magic. Here Dr. Stephen Strange come and he picked up on that magic like that. He had a little bit of hiccup learning how to produce it, and all she had to do was set him somewhere where he had to survive or he'd sink or swim. And he tapped into his inner white man, and I'm telling you, but baby, he was the master. He's the sorcerer supreme above Mordo, who had been there for years, learning that magic and had a mastery over it. That's your media's way of telling you he better than you. He
Mhm.
better than you. He's smarter than you. He know more than you. He can get it better than you. You know. So hey, when your God step on the scene and he tell you he better than you better believe it. That's why we treat
Mm-hmm.
white people better.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. You bring up an interesting point, Kendra, when you say basically, and I'm gonna just sum it up, that we typically defer to white people for the end all be all. Like you said, when we don't even believe it until a white person confirms it. And you have to ask the question, why is that? And it makes me think of a conversation Classic Ruby and I were having the other day with giving business to black folks and how they still don't treat you. They treat white people even better when you've given them your business as well than what they actually treat you. I guess I have to say it's like
Mm-hmm.
a call to action. It's like black folks, if we want to be able to look to one another to be sources of information and our goods and services as opposed to white folks, you have to actually be on that same level. I mean, if there's no other time you want to set a benchmark, try to set it there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's like I can come to you for information if I felt that you were full of information. But unfortunately, generally speaking, black folks don't tend to want to be full of information. That's not something they want to do. They don't want to read a book. They don't want to sit down and learn more. They don't want to, like I put in the comments, I went and looked up more about Toronto because I'm learning more about Classic Ruby. So I want to be able to speak intelligently, or at least know what she's talking about when she speaks about what she's living through, and then her culture there in Canada. It's like people don't take the time out to actually be sources of information themselves. So it's almost like you're giving me no choice.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
You're giving me no choice. And I'm speaking to the people who are in those places where people do look to you, whatever that is, even if it's something as small as just being the matriarch or patriarch of your family. Be the resource that everybody needs, and perhaps we can change the tide one person at a time. But until then, we're just blowing hot air.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I I've always thought that, you know, when I see this kind of stuff, and when we talk about, we as black people seeing the white man as God or a symbol of Jesus or whatever, I'm a believer that, not only are we in that frame of mind, I think a lot of us we envy white folks. Uh, we idolize white folks, and some of us just love white folks. I'm a true believer that some of us just love white people. We can't get enough of white folks. Some of us love white people so much because of how we idolize them, because of how we fear them and just envy them. I often say this, and I get a lot of heat from this from people, because I say this stuff around people that I know too. I say, if there was a pill to take that black people could take and turn them white, I
Hmm.
said the drugstore would not be able to keep them on the damn shelves. And it's like 45 million of us in this country. I said in about 90 days, it'd only be like 1,000 of us left. In about 90 days, because the drugstore would not be able to keep them on the shelves. And let me tell you something. The people who I believe love white folks the most are the ones who are always telling you how much they hate them. And the reason why I say that is this. They go in so hard about, oh, I hate white people. You know that on my because I have I have a T.P.O.T bandwagon page, right? That goes along with my Prophet of Thought series Facebook page. I have actually had people on that page say, if you know white people or you have white people in your friends list, just delete me from your friends list. I'm like, wait a minute. This is Facebook. Facebook isn't real. You know, you do realize that Facebook is not real. So when I see that kind of stuff where people going so goddamn hard trying to convince you how much they hate white folks, what they really doing is trying to convince themselves, because those same people who are constantly telling you how much they hate white folks and this is the white man's the devil, he's the beast, he's Satan, and all this kind of stuff that they're telling you, these are the same people who kiss the white man's ass for 8 hours all day while they work the damn customer service job at Walmart and Kohl's and Harbor Freight and Lowe's. I know, because I be in these stores and I see them. And I guarantee you, those are the same people who get on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and Twitter and every damn well else talking about how much they hate white folks, when in reality, they do not hate white folks. They hate us. You hate us. You don't hate white people, because if you hated them, why don't they get the dirty looks and the nasty attitude when they come up to your damn register that I get? Why don't they get the snide remarks and the sucking of the teeth and the rolling of the eyes? You don't hate. Knock it off. You do not hate freaking white people. You love yourself some white folks. You love them. You love them. And straight like that. And I will. And you know what I'm going to start doing when I go to these stores now? I'm going to start telling people this. I'm going to call them out. I've often not said nothing. I just put my shit, I pay for my tools, my supplies, and I just get the hell out of there. But you know what I'm going to do? The next time I see somebody in a store, another black ass person who looks black just like me, and I see them kiss the white man's ass, and then when I come up to the counter, they want to give my black ass attitude, guess what? I'm going to tell them about themselves. I'm going to tell them.
You should.
Yeah, I'm going to tell them, I just watched you kiss this white man's ass. How dare you, woman, talk to me like that? And I look like you. Yeah, and I'll probably get thrown out. I have to go to another Harbor Freight or another Lowe's or something.
Who cares? You plant a seed. Plant a seed.
Just call their
plant a seed.
Call their supervisor. Their name is on the receipt.
I can't just I told my wife, I told wifey about it too. I said, I'm tired of these bras acting all nasty. See, I be in a rush, so I don't really have time. I just be like, I need to grab my shit, get to my shop, get to my next job. I don't have time for the shit. But you know what? I'm going to make time. I'm going to make time to talk shit.
Well, you would have been proud of me, because I worked for I probably shouldn't name the name, but it's in the cable industry. In a store, like an actual store. That's what I did before I quit in September when my husband got promoted. And you'd be proud of me, y'all. Oh my goodness, after Donald Trump won, it was an instantaneous change in the white folks. They went from being almost bearable and keeping their racism, masked behind their smile, to I don't even give a fuck no more. Our boy is in, I mean, so y'all will be proud of me, because I kicked a lot of goddamn white folks out the store, young and old.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about old woman. I kicked her out and told her I'm not dealing with you no more. When I say nasty, y'all, I'm talking about after Donald Trump won, it was a change. I saw it happen right in front of my eyes. They went from being just regular customers to being assholes like, this world is mine. I even had one gentleman that I had to tell, I know I look younger than I am, and I know that because you see me here, you may think that I'm uneducated, but that's actually the furthest thing from the truth. I mean, me and this man got into it to where my manager came back to me and he said, Ming, he said, he wants you to come out there and apologize. And I quote, I said, Mark, I will give you my badge and go out there and spit in that white man's face before I apologize. And he just started, and I meant it. He just started laughing. And he was like, and by the time, because he put him on ice, by the time he went back out there, the dude left. But I meant that with every fiber in my being, because it felt like they came in there and they just felt like they could talk to you any kind of way. They could say whatever. I even had a person come in there talking about and then you send our business overseas, and that's against the law, talking to people who could barely understand English. And trust me, I agree, but I was offended, because it's like now all of a sudden you got the audacity to stand here and complain about how we're doing business because all of a sudden Trump want to build a fucking wall. Now you think it's okay to come in here? I had a person, a white woman, come into the store, and she wanted me to do something that I couldn't do. She thought that she should get preferential treatment because her children were in the store, in the car, and so on and so forth. So where an Indian woman walked up and said, my children are in the car too, but I would never talk to you this way. That's how indignant and ignorant she was being. And I'm still keeping it professional, yet direct. And so she says, well, what's your name? And I tell her, well, my name is Ming so-and-so. She look at me like, yeah, right. I said, what, you think my name can't be Ming because I'm black? And she just, a hush went over the crowd. And she just kind of stood there like, no, I'm not saying that. I promise you. 2 hours later, that woman came back and I was talking to somebody else and she was standing there. She came over and held my hand and told me, I am so sorry that you would ever think that I would be acting this way because you're black. My husband is Somalian. This was the day after Trump put that ban on the flying from different countries. So I had absolutely no idea. I would have never done that. So she just came back and was crying and apologized. But I had to say to her and put her on Front Street, because that's exactly what the fuck she was thinking. Who is this black girl with this Chinese name? Yeah, right. But before Trump won, they would have never said no shit like that.
Right.
She would have never. I mean, look, for all the people you got done wrong by, trust and believe I did their asses dirty on your behalf. Believe that shit, because I kicked their asses out. Like, you can get out of my office. You have to go, little old lady. You too. Bye.
I do believe that Trump has emboldened
that's the word.
Yeah, I think he has emboldened somewhat, some discriminatory, bigoted, prejudice crap. The deep down, dark, racist, bigoted, prejudiced people who usually would be like under their rocks. They have been emboldened to kind of get up out of their rocks now, and things they would have never said before, they will say out loud now. Things they only talked about at their damn table, they will talk about out in public, out in work. They'll say it on social media. We just talked about earlier about the girl who was just going on this tirade, and she got kicked out of school, by the way. So, she screwed herself. But that kind of stuff has spiked. It has spiked tremendously with white folks since Trump has gotten into office. Now, is it coincidence? I don't know. And I don't think so.
But conversely, something I noticed is that it also provided a level of unity that I've never seen before. The next day, because I was nervous going, I'm working with the public. I had like butterflies and everything going to work the day after the election. I had a Hispanic man. He sat in my office, and before we did anything else, he literally started crying. His wife, no, he was white. I'm sorry, I misspoke. But his wife was Hispanic, and he was saying that the holidays were coming up because this was after the election, but before Thanksgiving. And he didn't even want to take his family down south to see his family because a vote against the Hispanics or for Trump was against his family. and his biracial children. I had a white couple in my office. He was a Trump supporter, she was a Hillary supporter. They literally broke out into an argument in front of my goddamn face, and I'm sitting there with secondhand embarrassment. Like, what is the what do I say? Like, go girl. It was weird, and I saw people now coming up to me and engaging me a little bit more, almost, what it also it emboldened the closet racists, but it also emboldened people who really aren't racist, even though they may be another nationality or ethnicity. I mean, people would start having conversations with me, about it, because I guess I was a safe space, like you would understand. Let me touch your hair. How do you lock it like that? What do you do? I'm starting to get these questions.
Well, that's the thing, though. There's explicit racism, and so you have explicit beliefs, things that you believe. But there's also implicit racism. There's a lot of people who are prejudiced or are racist, but they don't know that they are. Even consciously, they might think they hold beliefs that are totally not racist, that they really think everyone's equal. And so what ends up happening, though, is that it will come out, and they might even be shocked by their own behavior. Like that woman you were talking about, I bet you she was shocked and dismayed by her own behavior, and she recognized it for what it was, and that put her on notice, like, oh my God. I didn't think this about myself at all, and yet there it is.
And that's why I don't miss the opportunity to check a motherfucker in their shoes.
Well, and that's the thing, right? The best thing that ever happened is Trump becoming president, because with the emboldening this and this racism starting to come out, starting to be on Front Street again, what's going to happen is we are all going to become uncomfortable, because as much as we think that our situation's uncomfortable and it's terrible and whatever, we're comfortable in it. But it's about to shift now, because we are all getting more and more uncomfortable by not just the changes that Trump's making, but also Trump's presence and the changes it's making in the white people and other people. So we're going to have no choice but for us to move as well, because you only move when you're uncomfortable. You only move when you can't sit back anymore and just wallow in your own, filth and misery. So I think it's actually doing something really positive for the Black community, even though that's not their intention.
Well, let me ask you ladies this. What if white folks, right? What if white folks were to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to now start treating every brown, tan, black, burgundy, yellow person. We are going to start treating them worse. We're not going to have no problems calling people niggers and wetbacks and chinks and kikes and everything else. What if that was a trend? Where do y'all think Black people would stand in that? Would we be able to, the way we are now? Well, better yet, let me go ahead and rephrase it. Let me phrase it a little better. What if white people, because white people control everything. I don't know how they do things up in Canada where you are, Lady Classic, but in America, white people control everything. White people have control of the electricity. White people have control of the water and sewage system. White people own the cable companies and the satellite companies and all that. And they got on TV and they say, you know what? From now on, white people only get water. White people only get sewer. White people only get electricity. White people only get sanitation. Do you ladies believe that Black people could survive that? I mean, do you believe, we're not talking about Blackville, because we spoke about Blackville where, Black folks got their own little town, their own village. I'm talking about, do you believe that Black people can survive independent from white folks. And I mean totally from white folks, not just having some little Blackville town. I mean, white folks done cut you off from the water. White folks done cut you off from the electricity. They done cut you off from the sanitation. They done cut you off from the sewer.
You mean after we detox everybody?
Maybe black people who were in the military could survive. I don't know. Like a lot of black people who are, say, from the inner city, they'll lose their minds if they don't have any sewage or electricity or anything. That we definitely have to band together then. I'll tell you that much.
I
Maybe
think
black people who still live in the country could survive.
I think we could do it. It would just speed the process up. No comfort zone. No time to, wallow in your coonery for 2 generations. You would have to literally. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You would have to literally organize it and get the logistics together. So all of that craziness about what you don't want to do, it would just speed that process up. You can't go to White Zaddy and get nothing. So you either sink or swim at that point, and all who don't want to swim and who don't know how to swim and you don't want to get your weave wet in the water, well then, poo poo to you.
Get it
And
wet
you can
anyway.
just you getting wet anyway. So just go on over. We'll just slit your throat and leave you to the side, and we'll just keep going and actually live because we know how to do it. But the dependency makes you lazy.
I'm in agreement with them. We would absolutely do it. You saw I threw a little joke out about detoxing, and I meant that because our brawn, our younger generation, who actually has the stamina to be able to build those trenches and do those things, they need to get detoxed. They're so fucking high right now. So after we detox everybody and teach everybody a damn skill and a trade and get everybody up to snuff, we'll do fine. We created everything else that the world is living off of. We'll just recreate it again,
So if just think about this. Now, we know that white folks have a heavy influence on black folks, even the black folks who don't have that much contact, because a lot of us, we don't even have that much contact with white people. I mean, a lot of us don't. But we know that white people have influence over black people because, white people control everything. They control media, transportation, communication. They control all the amenities that we love so much, like cell phones and media and all this other crap. White people control it. So if those things were taken away, we would be inconvenienced quite a bit. If they took away YouTube and internet, which they run, right? If they took away cell phones and, the communication devices that we have, right? We would feel it for a little while. I think we would feel it rough. A lot of us, some of us more than others, because some of us, we just couldn't survive without the white man, because some of us just love white people. But we would feel the pain for a little while. But I heard Lady Kendra say something very important. She said it would speed the process up. And to be honest with you, and I know a lot of black people out there will get mad with me for saying this, I think I would be fully behind white people taking away water from black folks, take away electricity from black folks, internet from black folks, all that. You are on your own, Negroes. That would be the one thing that would consolidate us, all right? Because anyone who thought individualistically would not survive. We would have to have some degree of monolithic collective thinking to survive. Yeah, you would have to have it, because see, you don't have no access to water. You don't have no access to sewage. You don't have no damn electricity. You don't have no damn cell phone, no TV, no internet, none of that shit. So you would have to be you'd have to be either one of the people who are taking care of the commune, the compound we live on. You would have to be one of the hunter-gatherers. You would have to be one of the people to go get the water. You know, you'd have to be one of those people.
Yeah.
Because we'd have to have people to hunt the food, because see, they done cut that shit off too. Yeah, because black folks don't got no food transportation companies. Black folks ain't owning a whole bunch of supermarkets. So see, that's part of the cutoff too. So we have to grow our own food, find our own water, build our own houses, establish our own communication, establish our own transportation, all of that. And I do believe that that would be the one thing that would bring black folks together.
Agreed.
That would be the one thing. And I'm all for it. I'm all for that.
I'm 100% in agreement with you about that.
I honestly, the problem is that it sounds good in theory, and honestly though, when I think about it, TV shows, for example, Walking Dead, where you lose everything, because that's in essence what we're talking about. You lose modern society. And, the only difference you think to yourself is, oh, well, there wouldn't be zombies. Well, there kind of would be, because there would be the worst of us, the most violent of us, the most money hungry of us, that, we see the evidence of what our people do when we lose everything temporarily because of some type of crisis. What happens? There's a bunch of looting. There's a bunch of wilding out. There's a bunch of people breaking into homes and trying to steal and trying to take advantage of others. They don't have the mindset that they want to build and they want to help their community and whatever, because we're already so fractured that taking everything away in and of itself is going to it's not going to trigger a community mindedness. There would be at least for, I say, a considerable amount of time, there would be a lot of bad things happening. And I can't even say that I think that the best of us would be the ones who survive ultimately out of it, because a lot of the best of us would be exactly the big targets, because they would be the ones who would be saying, all right, guys, okay, so I have 10 chickens, so each family gets a leg or whatever it is, and whatever. And these little hooligan violent ones who don't see our people as part of them, they just see them as targets to take. They're the ones who are going to be breaking in and looting and killing that whole family to get what they have, and live in that house until all those resources are exhausted. And they're not going to sit there and say, oh, there's 10 chickens that can last us a few months. No, they're just going to eat like it's normal days. Why? Because they don't give a shit. And, they're not going to be planning. And so then those of us who are banding together would be, first of all, working on trying to protect our children and our most innocent, and then trying to stop the violent, terrible terrorists, in essence, who are going to go around and try to basically continue destroying, because that's what they're doing, because they are so broken and so lost. And then in and of itself, for our little tiny, groups of people we already knew, we're not going to know with the groups that we encounter, are you friend or foe? It literally, I think, would be such a period of terror and chaos. And I think many, many good people, many of our most innocent, i.e. our children, wouldn't survive. And many of the people who did would be turned into something other than what they were when they started. They wouldn't be able to maintain being good or even community minded or let's build, because ultimately when you put people into that type of survival mode, it could be a good thing, but when you add in the, ever-present threat of looting and violence and danger, and even just other families, my kids are about to starve, and it's us or you, so I would rather kill you and take your stuff. When you start getting into things like that, and it becomes every man for themselves, every family for themselves, every group for themselves. So I don't think that that would bring our community closer together. If anything, I think it would just illustrate just how broken and solitary we really are.
So we can only survive with white folks, with the assistance of white folks. That's the only way we're going to survive. It's the assistance of white folks.
No, what I think though is that there's a difference between taking everything away tomorrow that white folks are running or controlling, and immediately tomorrow and putting us into that state, versus saying, okay, you know what, we need to collectively make this happen, right? I think we talk about we need to collectively make this happen. We need to start running and then patronizing our own banks. We need to start running and controlling and our own school systems, our own neighborhoods, our own whatever. I think we realize that having that connection to white people and their companies and their whatever, and it's all controlled by them, is a bad thing. I just don't think that the solution is taking it away tomorrow, just suddenly.
I see what you're saying, and I hear what you're saying, and you make a good point, Ruby. But I'll take a disaster situation, Katrina, and then Harvey.
Mm-hmm.
When Hurricane Katrina hit, and this is all second and third hand information because I don't live in the Gulf.
Right.
So I didn't see it personally.
Mm-hmm.
And so cats might even be a little bit more apt to tell what she saw, because I think Katrina hit in like 2006 or something,
2005.
2005 or 6. Okay. So when that situation happened and the government took so long to come to provide relief for the citizens of New Orleans. How do you say it, Cats? Because you don't say New Orleans. How do you say
New Orleans.
New Orleans? Okay. And it took so long. Yeah, you have the element of the criminal element, because there's always a criminal element. But when we watched it on TV, our experience from being a distance from it and watching it on television, they would have had you believe that our people were looting during that disaster. But when you go in a store looking for the essentials to live, that's not looting. That's surviving. That is not acting in a criminal way. That is surviving the situation that you're in, because effectively that actually happened. The premise that brother put forth actually happened in a microcosm. In that instance, it was all cut. No, we don't have clean water. Our homes are destroyed. We don't have the luxury of phone calls and internets and all of this other stuff. So now we have to come together immediately and survive. And for the most part, they did. And when I'm talking about our Black people, we did for all of the negativity that is espoused about us, that other people believe about us, and that we believe about ourselves. In the instance where there was no white zaddy, and it wasn't for quite a while, because in that situation, days and weeks is an eternity. Because now I have to figure out how I'm going to eat. First of all, I might have to figure out how I'm going to get out of this house. Okay. And then they had anyone who had a boat, they came through the community, because the Coast Guard may or may not have been there. But I mean, we got to galvanize and we got to mobilize right now, because my block is flooded. And I know that there are people in their houses that are either dead or they will be in the next 24 to 48 hours if we don't move. So I actually think that we could do it. It would just be painful, because we probably are going to have to blow some brains out of the guy that lives down the street that I've been watching you all around the block. I'm going to blow your brains out if you come over here trying to take what what I have and what we're trying to build. That's gonna hurt in the immediate, because you don't want to do it.
But it's a
We're talking
necessary
about people
evil.
who probably have never killed anyone or hurt anyone on that level. I've never killed anybody. But if you put me in a situation where it's me or you, I'm gonna find that inner murderer, and
But
I'm gonna take care of business, or at
you know
least
what
I
a
would like
big
to think that
difference
that's what
is?
I would do.
And a lot of times, though, a lot of the issues that we talk about, and the big major crises that have happened, have been surrounding floods lately. And and that just brings the point a big thing, whereas that there are a lot of places that don't get floods because they're landlocked. And when you turn off water and the sewage system, but more importantly the water part, to a bunch of people who are landlocked, who have no way of getting to water themselves, and because as someone who doesn't live anywhere near water, no risk of flooding unless it were to rain that much. I think about things like that. Water, like you said, food, survival, whatever. I don't live in a country that for most of the year you can't grow your own shit. So there's a lot of things. And again, if you shut things off tomorrow, there was no advanced planning, there was no whatever. That is good. That might go okay for the first few days. Like when we had the blackout here. So we had a blackout here in the GTA. What was it, 10, 15 years ago. And the first, 48 hours, it was kind of funny and cool. And, oh, let's all go buy the beer before it goes bad. And, let's go and buy things that we can barbecue with, charcoal until the charcoal ran out. No, it was cute and it was fun. And then it got less fun as, days went to weeks. And of course, they turned on and found a way of getting the power on in, primarily white neighborhoods. And the further out you got, the less likely it was for you to get power. And I saw personally for myself, I had a couple, we were harboring 3 different families in our house, not because of food and whatever, but literally because of violence and looters and people who were just getting drunk and high and whatever because they had nothing better to do, and then trying to take what other people had because the stores were out of stuff. If they weren't, things were priced stupid, ridiculously high. And so it became a risk factor for people who had children. So, when I'm speaking, I'm not speaking about, oh, well, I read this one news story and it said that there were looters over there. I'm saying that, I've seen just electricity and associated things be taken away for about a month in the GTA here. And I saw in our Black communities here, where you see a large concentration of Black people, are normally lower socioeconomic classes, so they have less money and they already have less things to begin with. And those, when you don't have anything and then you take away things, they're already all in the mindset that they're ready to fight to the death to get some water for the baby, to get some water for their mom or whatever it is. And you know what? People who are in some cushy little area, they never really wanted for anything, because there's Black people in areas other than, like obviously like rougher areas. There are going to be Black people who are in, neighborhoods that have more white people and whatever. Well, they're part of all of that as well, right? So, I mean, we're looking at it from, on one side, yeah, okay, well, we got to force people into action, and I get that. But on the other side, you got a lot of people, you're hardcore, you know what I mean? Ming's hardcore. Y'all are hardcore people. There's a lot of people in this world that are not hardcore, and they know push come to shove. There's nothing in their minds that tell them, okay, well, I could do this. Maybe they could if push came to shove, but in their minds right now, they don't own a gun. They've never wielded a weapon. They're very peaceable people. They'd have to get to that place where they're not peaceable people anymore, but they didn't start there, where they just know if this happened, I'd be ready. So, I mean, I don't know. And that's where I see the issue coming in.
Well, unfortunately, when you're dealing with Black people, you're gonna have a few niggers sprinkled inside of it, and the niggers aren't going to become less of niggers when things go bad. They're going to become more of niggers when things go bad. So if you have a situation where white people say, okay, we're cutting black people off from water, electricity, internet, telephone, stuff like that, of course, some of the niggas gonna have to be weeded out and shipped off the nigga island. That goes without saying. I mean, we already know how that go. Everybody isn't going to line up and say, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to organize. It's going to be some people that you just going to have to leave out of the equation because they just ain't going to act right. I don't care how much you love black folks. It's going to be some of us in there who going to act a damn fool and try to mess it up for everybody else. I mean, it's just going to happen. It may be one or it might be 1,000, but it's going to be at least one. Yeah, it's going to be at least one. So that right there is that's usually what messes things up amongst black people as it is. I mean, no matter how many good people you have within a black society, it's not the good people in black society that keep black society messed up. It's the fuck ups. It's the fuck ups. Now, we can pathologize why they're fuck ups and the situation that got them to be a fuck up. But the fact remains that these are the people that are messing up black society. It's not the people who are hardworking, want more, want to do shit for their community, want to organize, want to build strong families. It's not those people. It's the people who don't give a shit about anybody except themselves. It's those people who destroy black society. And see, a lot of times what happens is we as black people, and I've talked about this before, a lot of times as black people, we are judged. We're judged based off of the actions of those people. Because when others see those people, they automatically think that we are like them. They think we're like them. I've talked about this before. I talked about negrology, where you find yourself being judged not just because you're black, but you're being judged by others because they think you're a black nigger. Not just black, but an old black nigger. So that plays a crucial part in things too. But let me ask you ladies this. Do you ladies believe that most white people don't like black people? Do you think what percentage of white people do you ladies believe don't like black people? What percentage? Just a rough estimate in your mind.
Jesus, I don't know. Maybe over. I think it's over 50%. Definitely.
Okay.
It's so tough to answer because it's so many layers to peel back like it's an onion in terms of like black people. Like I remember I had this class in college and undergrad. Half of the class was black, the other half was white. And it was one of those 1 week during the summer type classes, for full credit. And I remember one of the girls in the class, and she said that in her family, she had never met a black person in her life, ever in her life, till she came to college. And her upbringing, her parents, her grandparents, and all the negativity and the things they said about black folks, I guess probably in her subconscious, I would think she would probably have some preconceived negative notion about black people that will then make her really not like black people when it all, comes out in the wash. You know, it's so I'm sorry. It's just really hard to say for me to say how many people don't like black people, because some people overtly or consciously don't like black folks, but then there's other people who until you point it out to them, don't even realize they don't like black folks. Like I had a friend, Diane. She's a little older white woman, and she thinks she likes black folks, but I had to cut her off because when it all boiled down to it, you really don't like when we pull back the niceties and we get down to what's really important. You really don't like black folks. So it's like, how many people do I think like black folks, or how many people think they like black folks? And then it's like, and then if you want to break it down even further, how many of us, like, you know, like anybody, to be quite fucking frank, how many people, and I'm not trying to be funny, but it's serious, it's real. That's why it's so subjective. It's so hard to nail down, because how many people are honest with themselves, and even more so with you. So I don't know. I don't know.
You know, I don't know if I can answer it that way, but here's how I'll answer that. White supremacy is a system. And when a system is in place, it needs maintenance and upholding in order to continue. And when you have a large national system, then it needs the majority to uphold it. So I don't know if I can answer how many white people dislike Black people, but I can probably say in the high 80 to 90 percentile of white people uphold white supremacy, whether they know it or not.
Okay, I
And it
like
has
that.
nothing to do with liking or disliking Black people, but it has everything to do with them not wanting to relinquish white privilege and the perks of being in the dominant society. So some of them may not even care about you being Black. They care more about um, white supremacy and them making sure that they're still at the top. Because if we had anything more than 50% of white people actually liking Black people and disliking the system, the first thing that they would do was not deny that the system exists. And the second thing that they would do would be to dismantle it. And they don't.
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
Well, I think that ultimately it's not a matter of liking or disliking, because ultimately it comes down to whether it's implicit or explicit. The issue comes down to prejudice and how many of them are prejudiced. Well, basically all of them. And that isn't a bad thing necessarily. It doesn't have to be. At the end of the day, like I said earlier, if you are an intact culture and an intact person, then you are literally programmed to trust things and people who look most like you. So the things and people that most resemble you are going to be the ones that you trust the most and you like the most and you think highly of and you have automatic positive thoughts about. And the further away something gets from looking like you and resembling you, as far as both your looks and also your culture, your mannerisms, everything, is the more you are going to distrust that thing and not want to be around it, near it, present with it. So it logically makes sense that they are prejudiced against us. What doesn't logically make sense is that we don't seem to have the same prejudice against them. We are supposed to. This is why the Asians stick together and the Jews stick together and whatever. And because you're supposed to look at someone, and if they resemble you, you're supposed to trust them and automatically like them and automatically want them in your circle, and you're supposed to automatically shun things that don't look like you. So to me, if anything, white people are acting the way that they're supposed to. We are acting abnormally against them. We're not supposed to trust them. We're not supposed to rely on them. We're not supposed to want them to set up our lives or be part of our lives or whatever. We're supposed to want to separate ourselves from them, because we're supposed to have a natural and healthy distrust of people who don't look like us.
Okay. Well, let me shake it up a little bit. You ladies, all Black women sitting here on this here unicorn panel, and we talked a lot about the white man. So let's talk about the white woman for a moment here. Now, you often hear it. I know I have that the white woman is the standard of beauty. You've often heard the master teacher talk of the myth of the white woman and so on and so forth. Now, what is you ladies' take on the white woman standard of beauty. Do you believe in that? And because you know I like to hit y'all with these two-part questions. And do you feel like you have kind of conformed to the white woman's standard of beauty? Whoever wants to go can go.
Well, you know, I have locks, so I did not conform to white woman's standard of beauty, not none whatsoever. And to be quite honest with you, I've been oblivious to quite a lot of it. I didn't realize that we were in this much turmoil until I came to YouTube, to be honest with you. And just the world I've created or the world or the life I've lived, white women have been a non-factor for me personally. The guys that would probably date white women aren't even guys I'm checking for. I didn't date outside my race either. So they just never really even bleeped on my radar as being anything other than, you know, a woman or a white woman. They just don't register to me like that. But I live my life kind of that way. I'm inside out versus outside in. It's about what I want to do and what I'm about, you know, and it's like I say, roll with it or roll out. So they really have never really been a factor to me in one no way or the other. And as it pertains to cultural appropriation and other things like that, you know, right now, to me, I think that's just a bunch of shit to get our minds off of real problems. That to me, that's small. That's small potatoes. I really don't care if you decide you want, you know, white person, you want to lock your hair, and I have locks too. I really don't give a shit about that. That's small to me. I also don't care about them wanting to know more about what we have going on. I mean, they're going to do it one way or the other, at least be in control of what they do. And I always feel like fear sometimes holds people back. Fear is sometimes the issue that doesn't allow us to cross some of these boundaries and borders. So if understanding is kind of what lessens fear. So if you could understand a little bit more about my actual culture, perhaps we could bridge some of these gaps. I just don't get caught up in that shit because I'm going to do and wear what I want to do and wear. And I'd be damned if you tell me I can't do it because Hispanics do it. Like, what type of shit is that? So I can't eat tacos? You know, that's kind of how I feel about it when it comes to cultural appropriation. To me, I had a talking to a Mexican guy or a Hispanic guy. He told me they don't even fucking celebrate Cinco de Mayo.
Nope.
You know, so like, come on. I guess it's really to me not. It's really not that big of a deal.
Um, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Have conformed to white women's Eurocentric standard of beauty. Have been guilty of it. I think a lot of Black girls and women have been guilty of it. Not all, but a good majority of us, because we are indoctrinated as young girls into the mindset that, first of all, our hair, and this is very, very important about the hair. See, hair can kind of get dismissed as something trivial, but not to us, not to Black women, because it's such a it's something to take from us and then change it and hand it back to us in a different package, and it means something else. When you tell me that my natural kink and curl and naps are ugly, they are unmanageable, it is unkempt looking, and the only way that I can be presentable is if I straighten my hair and make it look more European. That's the only way that I can do that. That damages me as a young girl growing up into a woman, especially if I never encounter anything that breaks it, that breaks that mindset, because that mindset leads into other things. When you buy into, oh man, I gotta perm my hair because if I don't perm my hair is unmanageable and there's no way that I can make it look good, then that starts filtering and translating into other things um, that pertain to me as a woman. I have to, and this is where you get skin bleaching, nose jobs for no reason, stuff like that. This is where you get that from, because her beauty is the all hailed, wonderful goddess of beauty. And we're so far from it in our natural state that the cognitive dissonance becomes very real in regards to it. Because you see a lot of Black women who wear weaves all the time. They pet it, they rub it, they don't feel like women without it. Now underneath it, they could be growing their hair in its natural state, but you'll never see them in it. Okay, so if she can't go out, she cannot step foot outside and face the world without a sew-in or a wig on. She has a deep-seated issue, and she has bought almost entirely into the myth of white womanhood, especially as it pertains to how she looks and her beauty versus a white woman's beauty. And I find that always to be one of the first things that Black women shake when we wake up. We'll do a big chop. That's one of the first things we do. Once we wake up, it's like, cut it off. Let me get rid of it. It's almost symbolic of freeing ourselves from a mindset as well as a certain look. Okay. So definitely I've been guilty of that. I woke up as a teenager and said, what the hell am I doing? You know what I'm saying? What am I really doing? Why is it that when I look in the mirror and see my hair in its natural state, why is it ugly to me? Who told me that? Who gave me that idea? Who perpetuated it? And unfortunately, our mothers perpetuated. I'll give you an example. Foot binding was a practice that they did, I believe, in either China or Japan. Somebody help me out. Was it China or Japan?
China.
I want to say it was China, yeah, but they bound their feet together.
And foot binding was a horrible, cruel practice where only the females at toddler age had to have their feet broken at the arch, toes and metatarsals broken and actually folded under like paper, and then wrapped that way and left like that. You know who was doing it to their daughters? The mom. The mother. The father never did it. It was the mom.
The mother. The mother did that.
Wow.
Well,
just like in the African countries where they sew them up down there and cut off their clitoris and stuff, it'd be the women right at the forefront of that, passing on tradition.
Well, I'm from New Orleans, so I could say we have a pretty big culture down here where we will celebrate our quadroons, our octoroons, our creoles. Like, I swear to God, every Black person down here wants to say they're Creole. You know what I mean? So I do think that there is this thing about the theory of the white womanhood. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. Like with my dad, on my dad's side of the family, like everybody's light skinned. And I remember, like, I know with my grandma, my dad's mother, she always says this about my mom. She's all like, your mom's very pretty for a dark skinned woman. I'll be like, the hell is that supposed to mean, like, as if dark skinned people can't be pretty and stuff. And I also remember when my grandma talked about how she used to be in cosmetology school, she would say that a lot of like the darker skinned women would pick on her, and she would say back to them, well, you niggas are just jealous because I got good hair and stuff. So like there's a lot of abuse that goes on between the women. And I do think that it happens on both sides. And to one of Kendra's points, I did used to work with a girl who one time she came to work without her weave in, and she was so depressed. And it was two gay guys that was like making fun of her. And I said, you really gonna let two gay dudes dictate to you whether or not you're pretty and stuff? Like, they don't even like women, so why do you even care what they have to say? and stuff. And she said, if I can't get my bundles by tonight, I'm not coming to work for the rest of the week. And I'm like, you gonna mess up your money because you don't have your weave in? I'm all like, I mean, you have to pay for the weave. You might as well come to work. I mean, you think the customers give a crap about whether or not your hair, like her real hair looked fine anyway. So I'm like, you think they really give a crap about whether or not your hair is all the way down your back and stuff? But yeah, it's strong down here. So that's the reason why, like, when BGS made that video, I could kind of understand where he was coming from, because there are a lot of black women, like where I'm from, that got that issue. They have the colorism issue and the hair issue, and wanting the same benefits and stuff. Because even like with my mom, uh, I'm not gonna say she doesn't have her issues too, because she will complain about black guys who date outside the race, but she's married to somebody outside her race. She's married to a Mexican guy. So, and I find it funny because um she has two girls and two boys. And my youngest brother and sister, they're twins. But the only one who came out to be light skinned, because like my dad is light skinned, but my stepdad is Mexican. The only one that came out to be light skinned was one of my brothers. So she like, my mom does kind of have an obsession with light skinned women. It's funny that neither one of her daughters came out light skinned.
Wow. Next up.
Okay, well, to me at least, like I wasn't born into or programmed with this concept that white people were beautiful. I was programmed with the concept that I'm beautiful, and to judge beauty based on how close or far away something is to how I look. Like my mother used to, when people would say, "Oh, your daughter is beautiful," she'd say, "I know, she looks just like me." So that was kind of the family I was born and raised into. And my mom's dark
You
skinned.
got some electricity sound coming.
Oh,
I don't know if that's you or
see, there, is that better?
sounds like Magneto is over there or something. Like a
Does it still sound like it now?
Yep. I don't know if
Oh,
it's you. It may not be you. I don't know. Can
I
everybody
don't know.
else
Here,
hear that? Am
let
I
me
the only
mute
one that
myself.
hears that? Oh yeah, it's you.
It's me.
Yeah, it's you.
Oh, great.
It's like electrical feedback kind of sound.
Hold on. Okay, is it better now?
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay, so it's my headphones, I guess. Fantastic. Okay, well, I guess I'll kind of talk like I'm on the phone then. Can you hear me?
Yep. Loud and clear.
Okay. So, I was saying, like, basically, the way that I was raised was standard of beauty was me. My mom was dark skinned. I was light skinned. I was not taught about the concept of colorism. That it wasn't an issue. It was a non-issue to me until I got to school in the end of middle school to high school, and that's when I found out that other people cared about skin colors. For me, my mother told me my hair, I had good hair. I had the greatest hair. My hair was so beautiful. My hair was so whatever. And what I have is incredibly dense, incredibly thick 4C hair. So for me, what I was programmed with is that that's what was good. The problem is there weren't really products and there wasn't really a lot of hair knowledge back when I was younger. So doing my hair was like some kind of hell. And certainly trying to do my hair and style it in a way and, to make me look, pretty and like a girl and not like I guess a budding woman versus, looking like you're five. That wasn't really an option. So, the second I found weave, I jumped all over that. Uh, and I stayed in weave for 16 years. And it wasn't about looking like white people. Actually, what I really wanted was I would get like the texture of hair that looked like permed hair. And then thereafter, once I was able to get kind of like coolie people hair. That's what I always wanted, was that kind of wavy, half Indian look. So for me, and again, it wasn't about white people. Like I was never trying to look like white people or trying to be like white people or anything, or even about fitting into white society was really irrelevant. I liked braids, but it would break my hair. And for me, having my own natural hair underneath being really healthy and long and full was important to me. So it wasn't until I found the natural hair movement online just recently, like this year, that I actually even took the weave out of my hair and started doing other things. Then that's when I also found out about these crochet dreads and all these other options. So, I do think obviously there are going to be women who are wearing weave specifically because they're trying to emulate something white, and I think you can tell based on other things that they say and do, like the skin bleaching, or the obsession with skin color, or just stuff like that. But I do think that there are many of us, like in my age category, there wasn't that hair knowledge, there weren't the hair products, that they just didn't exist back then. So there's a lot of women who are wearing weave and doing other things that might appear like, oh, I'm trying to look like white people. And it was really just a lack of knowledge and products. So, I think on that front, definitely, while everyone kind of thinks about the weave thing as well, that's the white Miss Anne kind of worship. I don't think that's necessarily it. But I do think that obviously, as a kid growing up, when I saw Tyra Banks, I was like, oh my God, there's a light skinned person on TV. I guess maybe we can be rich and famous and cool and whatever too. Because I had no idea at that point. At that point, I thought if you were black and you wanted to be rich, famous, model, beautiful, whatever, you had to be dark skinned, interestingly enough. So I think that a lot of when we think the beauty standard is white, it's because of what we're seeing or not seeing on TV. And it's less about your day to day life and seeing the white girl in your school and being like, oh, she's so beautiful, and more about that dream that we all uphold. Like, I want to be rich, I want to be famous, I want to be beautiful, I want to look like the stars, I want to look like the models, I want to look like whatever. And who are the majority of those people? It's white people. So I think that's where that kind of desire may come from for those who have it. I
Well,
didn't.
let me ask you ladies another question. As black women and growing up, because you're women now, so at some point you were black girls. Between then and now, have you ever wished you were a white girl?
So, not at all. Never even crossed my mind.
Ever.
Mm-mm.
When I was like 5 and really get into the Barbies, I wanted to look like Barbie
Mm.
because I always had a Barbie. I always had a white Barbie specifically. So yeah, that wore off at about 7. I stopped doing that because it was like, okay, wait, I'm not white though. So what are you gonna do? You're never gonna be white. So you have to stop thinking about it.
Right.
I always saw white people as deficient. And like I think it's interesting that I guess again, maybe because America doesn't have like that cultural thing that I had with my family here. But for me, white people were deficient, and they were deficient not just in their looks, they were very plain and kind of, whatever. They lacked things from a looks perspective and from a health perspective to us. But they were deficient in what they did. They can't cook, they can't clean, they don't prepare meat properly, they don't wash themselves properly. Like, they were just deficient things to us. So it was never a question of would I ever, I guess, look up to or want to be white people, because to me, they were like a deficient being that was there that we had to kind of
Right.
tolerate and whatever. You might be friends with one or two, but they were weird and different and lesser.
Well, okay,
I,
let's
I,
let's let's go there then. Um, I don't know if you ladies have white friends. If you do happen to have white friends, what's your interaction with them? And if you don't have white friends, why not?
Hmm.
My interaction
I,
with them, I wouldn't say like friends, but I have white associates and white acquaintances, white people I've worked with that we had a workplace friendship, if you will. But they think the same thing. They think I keep it real. I'm like the same thing I get from my black friends that I'm outspoken, I keep it real. They wish they could be as strong as me. Like I get a lot of that, especially from the white people I know. They wish they had this flavor, for lack of better words. They really do. Just and whatever the hell that encompasses, whatever flavor means, they wish they had it.
Mm.
It's almost like they put you on a pedestal, if you will, to a certain degree. Now, I'm not talking about the acquaintances and the friends you have to come in contact with who might be vying for your spot or who you may report to, but your peers and so on and so forth. I felt like I've been put on some sort of pedestal a little bit because they feel like we can get away with things that they can't get away with, or they could say, or we just have this something that's just in us that they just don't have. They like it. I mean, it's like if they could skin us and wear us, they will. That's always been the way I've been treated by white women.
I
Yeah,
think
what
that's
is
the
with
extent to my friendship with white people too, is that they want to know all the I guess what's happening or what's cool or whatever. They'll ask me, and I'll be like, I don't know, because I don't really have friends like that in general. So sometimes I will be standoffish with white people as well.
I have white acquaintances. They are online only. Um, and they do that strength deal. I don't know what's up with that. You're so strong. You're so this and so that. Not me trying to figure out. You don't even really know me. You don't know nothing about my
I
life.
hate when they say that.
I could be
It's
weak. So what
phenomenal
are you talking
woman.
about?
It's phenomenal woman.
And
It's
they
like
really do that. They really be like, "Oh, you're such a strong person, and I wish I could be more like you." And I'm like, white privilege not helping you, huh? Not all it was
It's
cracked
like
up to
they
be.
watch The Color Purple before they meet you.
I mean, they ask me about my hair so often. Oh my gosh, I'm at the dentist and the dental hygienist. You're touching my hair, asking me how do I get my hair like that. I really feel that if they could, they would really want to walk in our shoes. Oppression and all the other shit we done went through. They don't care. They don't have this flavor. They don't have this history. They don't have this richness. They don't have this strength. They a phenomenal woman. Oh my God, they wouldn't even know what that means. They don't know what it means.
Uh, okay, is the electricity thing happening
A
here?
little, a little, not a lot,
It
not
is?
as much as it
Okay.
was.
I see two of you down there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me
because
too.
I was testing out my tablet to see if it was the earphones or the device. It's the earphones, so never.
Seeing double.
Okay. So, well, if you live in a city the way that I do, where it's all white people, basically, you tend to make a lot of white friends along the way. Um, and actually, I was just having this conversation the other day. So I have the large majority of my white friends are actually white or they have a tiny percentage of black in them, but from the West Indies. So even though they're white Trinis or white Jamaicans or white something from somewhere else. Um, the one white friend that I have, and she's been friends, like white, she's Italian, and I've been friends with her since high school. And uh, that was probably every time I've made a white friend that was from Canada. So like if you're gonna be white, you need to be white from somewhere for me. So you have to have a culture that is outside of Canada. It has to be, you're Italian, you're Armenian, you're from somewhere because all of the ones that, and we lovingly call them cake. So if you are 10th generation Canadian or whatever, you're cake. And generally, cake people are the types of white people that I can't be friends with. And every time I try, it ends terribly. And it doesn't matter what their previous experiences are, their current experiences. They're married to a black guy, they blah, 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 blah. Like they are notoriously impossible to be friends with because ultimately they have that all powerful white woman syndrome, firstly. And secondly, as much as it may not show at first, eventually that entitled I'm white and you should think I'm better than you despite all evidence to the contrary, that always shows its ugly face no matter what. So I tend to stay away from cake white people. I mean, realistically, I tend not to make new friends much anyway in the past decade or so. But if I were to even make new acquaintances, it wouldn't be with Canadian white people at all.
Well, I'm going to say this because we're coming around to the end of the show. White folks, they're always going to have some degree of effect on black folks. I mean, there's no denying that, whether it be how we live, our lifestyle, our train of thought, our education, or the world we live in, for that matter. But I think it's important to remember that. And I get this saying. I'm going to steal this saying from Cerulean Gray, because he said this last night. He said there's nothing wrong with taking other people's money, because we were talking about white money. There's nothing wrong with taking other people's money. It's you can't take other people's leadership. And I think that's where we make the mistake. We make the mistake where we welcome white people's leadership. I don't think it's even that important if our women are embracing their standard of beauty, if people are accusing you of talking white because you pronounce all your consonant vowels and syllables when you speak words. I think those things are relatively infinitesimal on the scale of life. But I do think it matters when you embrace the white leadership. Because even if you embrace the white lifestyle, as long as you're not embracing the white leadership, you are not fully in. You know what I mean? You're not in. You're not quote unquote trying to be white per se. I think that's very important, that once we adhere to white folks' leadership as black people, that's when I think we start to lose ourselves. And I also think that we start to lose a grip on what we need to do as black people, because we know that a lot of things have been thrown at us by white people to not only take our minds off of what's important, like Lady Ming said earlier, but also to distract us. These things are distractions, all this nonsense that's going on. Because, see, we need to keep our eyes and minds and ears focused on what's important. All right. And what's really important, I believe, when it comes to what's going on between black people and white people, what's mainly important that we got to watch is that nothing in this damn country ever changes until it affects white people first. It has to affect white people first for it to change for everyone. And if we're lucky, we might feel a little bit of that change, whether it be a policy, a piece of politics, or a piece of legislation. We will never benefit from it until white people start bitching about it. And those are the things we need to be concentrated on. All the other things they just sidebars. That's it. We need to be focused on those big picture things, those big market items, because ultimately those big market items are going to be the things that make the difference. And we need to get in there and try to change these things any way we can, and not just change it because we think that white people are benefiting from it. We need to change it so that black people can benefit from it. And I will end it with that. I want to thank the unicorns for coming through. Good show as always. Got some really, really deep answers, because I know I asked some, pretty, obscure questions that make you think, but you ladies never cease to amaze me. I always look forward to these Thursdays. I mean, you ladies are just, you ladies are really amazing, and I mean it. I'm not just saying it to gas you up. I really look forward to these Thursday nights. I do. Tune in next week, y'all, because the Unicorn 4 will be back with another topic to open your minds. 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, as always. And make sure, I know you may be watching this live or you may be watching it on the playback. I want you to like, share, and make sure you subscribe to this channel. Make sure you go over to Prophet of Thought series at Facebook, and also make sure you stop by the T.P.O.T bandwagon page and go to the Prophet of Thought series group page. Request to be a member. I'm sure you can get in. Make sure you stop by the old Prophet of Thought series website, www.don'teventryitit.wikifoundry.com, and you can hit us up on WhatsApp and Instagram. We're going to have a Twitter soon, y'all. I just haven't made one yet. We're going to have a Twitter soon, I promise. So make sure you stop by all the channels. It's the Prophet of Thought, everything, stop by, follow, even leave a little message. I'll make sure I get to it and write you back. Once again, I'd like to thank the ladies of Thought, Unicorn 4, Lady Ming, Lady Classic, Lady Kendra, Lady Cats, once again, laying down a good show up in here once again. I will see everybody next week. I want to thank everybody in the chat, my moderators, for coming through and spending some time with us. It's always appreciated. And with that, I will leave you with 3 words, like I always do. Open your minds. And we out of here, y'all.
Have a good night, guys. It's
Good
been
night,
fun.
y'all.
Cheers, y'all. Good conversation.
Peace, folks. Only from T.L.O.T. Media. Open your minds.